Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
We are all social creatures. We crave connection. And with that comes our relationships and partnerships. And when it's two people, sometimes there's challenges there. Actually, I'm going to say there's always challenges there. There's never a situation, even if you talk to a couple, we've been married 50 years and everything is great. Yeah,
Right.
I'm sure there's been a little every once in a while. And for that, you need to work with that. You need to, like anything, I truly believe everything in life is work. And that's not, you have to work at it.
That's good.
And she helps you with that. She's a licensed psychologist, works with so many people, gets them back on track, especially couples. Gloria Vanderhorst is back with us. Hi, Gloria. How are you?
I am good today. Glad to be here.
Glad to have you here because this is an important topic we've never hit.
That's right.
In past episodes. But what lately do you hear from couples that they're dealing with? Is there any changes, or is it a lot of the classic challenges that they come to you with?
Let's see. COVID created significant changes for everybody. Couples in particular. Most families today have two working parents and they have children. Everybody's home. Think about that, right? And if you have preschool children, you can't take them to daycare. They're home as well while you're working. COVID was really a disaster for marriage relationships.
Agreed.
I see a lot of couples coming for therapy.
And would you say, I'm really curious about this because I keep things on my radar. Would you say, Gloria, that as a result of COVID, you saw a significant uptick in the amount of couples coming to you for therapy and counseling?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Couples are desperate to kind of regain some equilibrium, to really find each other again. Now that their kids can go back to school, they can go to camps, they can go to daycare. The couple is left with this. It's like a tsunami. You remember seeing pictures of a tsunami and how it just wipes out everything along the shore, and there's just a pile of rubble every place, and then you see people kind of walking through and over and under all of that rubble. That's the way I think of couples after COVID. All right, their whole structure has been devastated and destroyed and kind of turned upside down. So they're looking for pieces of this relationship to grab onto again, to put back together, to rebuild.
Or, the opposite of that, you have this tsunami that comes in and also makes one or both part of the couple realize life is short. Why am I doing this?
Right.
Then there's, then there's that.
That's right. Yeah, that's a natural consequence, I think, of any disaster. Right? You think of loss, for example. One of the significant losses for a family is the death of a child. And often after the death of a child, there's this rift in the marriage relationship, and some marriages can't survive it. It's just too difficult.
Sure.
Sorry about that.
No worries, no worries at all. You're the woman in demand.
Yes.
It is a challenge in any relationship. Then you add COVID in. I heard this, Gloria, that our perception is that it is usually a communication issue. That's where it's gone wrong. But I'm hearing more, not so much. We assume it's a communication issue, but it could be a lot of other stuff that's going on in the relationship.
I think it's a history issue. We come into a marriage relationship seeking to repair something from our history. We don't realize it at the time. So I have an example that I'm working on right now. I'm writing a book about men and boys, and I'm right now in a chapter about this couple who marry right out of high school, not because they're pregnant, but because each one of them is seeking to escape the difficulty in their own families. And they believe that if they come together, they've rescued each other. And so you know the end of the story, right? They repeat the trauma from each one of their families of origin, and they end up in huge arguments and battles with each other. So I think it's history. It's your early childhood experiences that really shape what your emotional needs are. And so if you don't dive into those and really clean out the junk, right? It's like cleaning the bottom of a swimming pool, all right? It's not safe to swim there unless, you have a good suction equipment and can clean out the junk.
In my observations, which have been heightened in the last number of years, I think you're spot on with what
Mm-hmm.
you said, where it is maybe not necessarily always an escape from your family life, but you don't even know, you're subconsciously, you're finding other people
Right.
who, for whatever reason, heal from it or
Mm-hmm.
make yourself feel better, uh,
Right.
deflect from it in your mind of what happened
Right.
for a child. And I'm not saying that, all childhoods were bad, but you might have internalized something that could have been just very little, but
Right.
carried it along with you, and now you carry it into another relationship. You carry it into another relationship, and we all know how that ends, pretty much.
Right. Right. So couples always, the majority of couples come announcing that they have a communication problem. Because when your relationship breaks down, that's where it shows. All right. That's the external scar that you see. We're either fighting more or we're not talking to each other, or we're bickering over small things. So they typically come reporting a communication issue. And there are processes out there that take that seriously and train people in better communication. I don't use a process like that because I don't think that it really resolves the connection between the two of them. It could improve the way that they function with each other because if you're communicating better, obviously there's going to be less stress, less tension. But I believe in a process that goes deeper into what really causes this strain between the two of you. It's an emotional issue that is inevitably grounded in childhood someplace.
Hmm. We could just ring the bell right there and be done.
Ta-da!
Serious. There it all is. There it is. And you often hear, somebody say, "Oh yeah, she's got daddy issues." She probably does.
Mm-hmm.
Cliche,
Mm-hmm.
but
Mm-hmm.
it's, by and large, even on the guy side, he's got, issues with a parent or whatever it is, but
Sure.
it's usually true. That's what's going on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. All right. So we come into the world dependent on our parents. And that dependence from day one shapes the way that we are going to relate to others in the future and the way that we're going to problem solve. We don't know it at the time, but you can look back and you can find it in people's histories and everyone's history. We think it doesn't make much difference how infants are treated, that they're pretty resilient, but they come into the world with their emotional system fully formed because that's their survival mechanism. They can't walk, they can't talk, they can't feed themselves, but they can read the environment emotionally. They are masters at reading the environment emotionally. And that's their survival mechanism. They know who's safe. They know who's dangerous.
Do you
It's
think it's also, do you believe in energy as well? Are they picking up on the energy of those around them? But
absolutely
they're very tuned into it because they don't have to worry about paying the mortgage, paying the rent, car payment, all of it.
right.
They're just, it's like their antennas like, I'm picking up on all this over here and
They're
processing.
picking up all these vibes. Now we could go into a conversation about dark matter. Are you heading towards a conversation about dark matter?
I don't even know what that is.
Dark matter makes up, they say, more than 90% of the environment that we live in.
Wow.
Right? It's not visible, it's everywhere. So the cutting edge of physics is examining the impact of dark matter. So it means that kind of everything in the universe is somehow connected through this stuff that we can't see, we can't experience. Um, and so, in answer to your question, do you think they're picking up vibes? They certainly are.
I didn't know it was called that. Uh,
Yep.
in my learning and studying in the past couple of years or so, radar. I'm sorry. Uh, Energy is very much on my radar. Where it is,
Uh-huh.
that's what's actually going on here.
That's right.
That's what we're emitting. That's what we're attracting, repelling, whatever it might be. I'm sure with couples, infidelity is something that you've dealt with a number of times, right?
True. True.
I don't want to blanket and the statement here, but I had this conversation with some friends over the weekend. Do you believe once a cheater, typically always a cheater?
No, I do not.
Okay.
No, there are concrete reasons that one or the other person would seek. Um, it's like you find a hole in yourself, and you go looking for something to fill the hole. And if you can get it from your spouse, that's fabulous. That facilitates the connection. If you can't get it from your spouse, then you will go get it from someone else. But that doesn't mean that your spouse can't do it. Your spouse, many times, can fill that hole if the two of you are willing to work on it and learn about, well, what is it that sent me out the door to find someone else? Then my spouse can fill that hole.
And I'm glad you said that because a lot of times it's viewed, one person cheats in a relationship because they're not getting what they want in their marriage. But maybe
Hmm.
it's the person that's cheating did make it easy for the other partner to provide it, whatever,
Right,
why ever, whatever. And I'm not talking that's always the case, but it's not the perception that somebody, stepped outside the marriage because they weren't, because their partner wasn't providing it. There's always reasons.
right,
But it could be straight out, physical intimacy. One partner is not providing it. It doesn't mean you should cheat, address it and
right,
move on, but
right.
whatever. Based on,
Communication, respect, right? Just anything can really trigger it if it's a repeat experience with my spouse. All right. If over and over and over again I try to start a conversation and you cut me off, you better believe at a party, I'm going to hang out with a guy that listens to me.
Mhm.
Right. And I'm going to feel good about this guy that listens to me. And I'm kind of want to see him again. Right. And maybe I want to go out and have coffee with him. And then maybe that evolves into this guy really likes me. All right. So I'm getting closer and closer and closer.
Right. I have a friend who, and that's how this whole conversation began over the weekend with a bunch of us talking, who got divorced. And when he first met his wife, he said that she cheated. She admitted that she cheated with her friend, a woman.
Hmm.
He was the second cheat, so to speak. He was already getting divorced from a previous marriage. Um, so now it was on. We have a history of that,
Right.
and then now you fast forward. I don't know, maybe 10 years or so into the marriage, he caught her having some type of relationship with somebody, and
Mm-hmm.
then now fast forward another 10 years or so, and they're getting divorced. He found her doing it again, uh,
Mm-hmm.
again and again. Reason I'm bringing this up is it goes back to childhood as he went to discover a little bit more. Um, her father left the family when she was very young, and when she started cheating again a few years ago before they got divorced, her father was dying.
Uh-huh. Wow.
And
Powerful.
and he showed me a picture of who she's with now.
Mm-hmm.
Guess who it looks exactly like?
Looks like her father.
Spot
Right.
on. Spot on.
Right.
Right to the part where they were both or are very Italian, rode a motorcycle. It's like
Mm-hmm.
textbook. I look at him, I'm like, dude, it's like
It's just deja vu all over. It's Groundhog Day.
exactly, exactly. So, I'm not the expert. I'm not a therapist, but to me, that seems like she has things that she never healed from
Right.
with her father. And he did tell me that she reconciled with her father after he got married
Mm-hmm.
to her. Things got way better and everything was fantastic. And then, of course, he got
Right.
cancer. And then that's where she picked up her cheating again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, powerful. Our early childhood experiences and those emotional needs that don't get met are incredibly powerful. And if we don't uncover them, if we don't address them, they leak out. They
sure.
find a way to express themselves in our work, our relationships, the way we treat ourselves.
Yeah.
Uh, they're present all the time.
What do you do in a situation couple comes to you? One is uh, unfaithful. They're
Mhm.
trying to patch it together. How do you recover from the loss of trust there?
It is a difficult process. But I know couples who've done it, and who have put the energy in. You have to have a reason to stay, right? Maybe your reason is your children. Maybe your reason is your own embarrassment, right? I don't want my, friend group and my family and everybody I know to see me as someone who either cheated or was cheated on. All right. So sometimes the motivation is just simple privacy. But whatever the motivation is, if the person who's been injured is willing to stay, they will learn about the injury of their spouse, right? Because it takes two injuries to create a cheating situation. And they can then decide if they want to come together to heal.
It's so interesting why people stay, but it's usually what you just said or your history. We've been
Mhm.
together, 12
Right.
years and
Right.
we've got the house, we've got the kids, we've got all of this behind us. And now I'm just gonna, because you cheated, I'm just gonna throw it away. It's hard to do,
Right.
but it's also hard to trust when we
Right.
and we talk about, cheating, infidelity here, but could be even somebody who wasn't honest in finances.
Hmm.
Took a ton of money and did something with it and didn't tell
That's
the
right.
person. Uh,
That's right. I've had cases like that, and in particular, where one spouse actually accesses the finances of the other. So when one person comes into the marriage with significant finances and then finds that their spouse has accessed them, done things with them, either gambled with it or invested in things that turned out to be bust or stupid, and they really feel significantly, and they are betrayed by this person. It's hard to recover
do
from
you
that.
think do you think that's almost as in that situation, that extreme situation where one came into the marriage with, a substantial amount of assets, and then somebody else, the other person in the marriage or partnership took a large part of that money, the impact, is it similar to somebody who was unfaithful?
It is very similar. It's a betrayal,
Yeah.
right? And it's a complete undermine of the other person. All right. It says, I do not believe that you would be able to kind of listen to my need and participate in something that I either want to take a risk at or I want to experiment with, or I think is, the future.
Mm.
Um, it says, you're not to be trusted.
And
So I have
the
to go
respect,
behind your back.
look at the loss of respect. You blatantly have shown to the other person that you don't really respect them
Right.
because you're able to do whatever you did. Um, how do you ever, or do you ever, Gloria, in those situations, fully recover? Is it even possible? Or you'll always have the other person who was done wrong, so to speak, will always have it on their mind, like, yep, you're on my radar, low level, but it's there.
Hmm.
There.
Yeah, I think it's, we keep these things, all right? We don't wipe out any of our memories.
Mm.
So it is always there. The question is kind of what's its resonance? How loud is it? How significant is it? How important is it? If I've managed to shrink it where my confidence in the other person, my attachment to the other person is truly strong, and I'm satisfied with how the two of us are functioning, then, I can tolerate that one percenter. It's not going to bug me, and probably I'm rarely going to be able to even think about it or reflect on it.
Well, I guess, in closing this particular topic, if it's the financial end of things, you can take the steps to protect.
Hmm.
You can do things. All right, you know
Right,
what, Kitty? I'm taking all of mine and I'm going to put it, and you don't have access to it.
right, right.
When it's a cheating situation, you
Yeah,
can't.
when it's emotional, you
And
can't bank the emotional
no,
or put it into a trust.
and you can't follow. Trust is a great word. And you can't follow your partner either
Right,
24/7 to see that
right,
they're being honest. And
right. I could watch my money 24/7 if I wanted to.
that's my point. So there's a layer of just a layer of, I'm trying to think of the word, comfort comfortability, I guess. I don't know where.
Well, so here's what's going through my head. We put chips in dogs, right?
Yes.
Right. So I could find my dog any place.
Oh,
I-
funny
If we
you say
if
that.
we put the right kind of chip in. Right now, the chip just identifies the dog, but you could put a tracking chip in the dog. So
You know,
maybe someday we'll devolve or evolve to putting tracking chips in our spouses.
so in just a couple of moments left here, but I'm gonna based on what you said, you can put things like Life 360 on your phone and track the other person.
That's right.
If somebody cheated in a relationship and the other person said, you went through counseling, therapy, and everything.
Hmm.
All right, let's put your money, where your mouth is.
Uh-huh.
Um, how about we put Life 360 on your phone? It's a free app, and I'll know where you are
All
24/7.
the time. You're right. The iPhone has done it already.
Is that reasonable for one person to say to the other one, or we're just we're making something bad even worse? What do you think?
No, I think depending on the motivation, all right, it's a reasonable thing to do.
Okay.
Actually, if you think about it, we when we give a kid a cell phone, we do it, right? My granddaughters are tracked. I can pull them up at any time and see where they are.
Same thing with my daughter. And
Yeah,
there was pushback, but it was also, okay, well, you're going to say you're not going to put it on your phone, you're going to keep shutting it off. Well, you're going to lose this and this and this and this.
right. That's right.
I'll share, my best friend has been dating somebody for about 6 years, and they're happy, they're all good.
Hmm.
They see each other, every weekend because they both work and they're a little bit of a distance apart. I actually put them together. I invite long story
Or
short,
did you really?
through radio. I just started talking and said my friend is getting divorced and he's looking for somebody. And she came
That's
forward.
great.
But they both have Life 360 on their phones, and they
Uh-huh.
each other. And I don't know if that's healthy because they've never given each other a true reason, but they know where each is.
Well, I will tell you just in my own experience. All right. So, as I said, my granddaughters get tracked in that way. And there are just sometimes that I think about one of them and I'll go to see where they are. And there's something comforting about that. Ah, she's there, right? And I can imagine, she's shopping with a friend
Yeah,
or
I agree in that regard. Yeah, if there is a comfort, I guess every relationship is different. Uh,
Mhm.
if you're both okay with it, then who's to judge? Who's to,
It depends on the motivation,
yeah, yeah.
right?
I,
I know a couple who they they live in the same house, they're married, but they'll talk to each other on their cell phones. They won't actually go to where the other one is, right? If you're upstairs, you won't walk downstairs into the kitchen to talk to the other one. You
who's
call them on the cell phone, and I thought, that's ridiculous. But maybe it's not, right? It's the device of the present.
who are we to judge if it works? My daughter lives with me.
Right.
She's 15, and she'll call me from upstairs. Hey, can you bring up salad dressing? I'm like, really? And I'm like, you know what? Pick your battles. It could be worse. Uh,
Absolutely.
to navigate us through these challenges with partnerships, how do we find you, Gloria?
You can find me on my website, www.drvanderhorst.com.
And Vanderhorst is V as in victory, A-N.
Vanderhorst.
A lot of good stuff we talked about today, and
That's fun.
that I appreciate you, Gloria. Thank you so much.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.